Hi, this is Shane Starr. Today I'm going to make two videos because I'm not much of the YouTuber. I hope I get them right the first time. The first video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Big-5 system in general. Maybe not so much its necessity, but its importance and contributions to the discipline of typology. And I want to talk a little bit about how it's unique from the other ones. I think it's obvious how they're similar. And we're going to talk a little bit about those traits, the five actual traits, and we're going to break them down. Then we're going to correlate them to specific parts of MBTI or just regular 16 personality types, definitions and aspects. And then in the next video, I'm going to show some specific typing of the Big-5, a website that allows you to find an actual type instead of a spectrum. And we're going to do some correlations, and that'll involve some self-testing as well. And looking forward to it. And here we go. So, Big-5, what's it about? It's famously or notoriously known as the most scientific of personality typing systems. Why is that? The reason is that the Big-5 focuses on traits, actual actions, things that can be observed and researched and measured and testable. That's the definition of science. Rigorous principles that can be researched, that we can find evidence for, and that we can test for accuracy. Now, how is this different from MBTI or socionics? Because they deal with things like cognitive functions and motivations, I would say I would put the Enneagram even further away from the scientific method. Not that this doesn't mean it's not as good, it's just different. It's not scientific. So, what do I mean by that? Most of the things that make us human, what we love, what we hate, what we hope, what we fear, what we're running towards in our lives, what we're running from, what motivates everything we do, all that's real. It's real in the most realist sense of the word, and it's what makes us human. However, these things are outside the realm of science. It's very difficult to measure someone's inner motivations. Again, those loves, hates, fears, hopes, dreams. All those things are outside the realm of science. It doesn't mean they're not real, no less than your love for your family members aren't real, right? However, in the realm of psychology, the Big-5 is solely trait-based. That means it's not looking at the inner motivations. It's looking at valid, reliable data, which means your actions. What do you actually do? And it's putting everything else on the shelf. Now, the cognitive functions can measure someone's actions, but it's going to look at what was motivating that. Did the person help clean up after the party because of FE or because of TE or because of an SI compulsion or SE, have to keep it moving. See, one and the same action can splinter off into a number of different functions if we're looking at it that way. Whereas the Big-5 refuses to even look at that. It's saying, let's just look at the black and white. Anything gray, we're just pushing off to the side. Now, where it's similar to MBTI and socionics insofar as the self-testing is if people are self-deceiving themselves and either lying purposely or unknowingly on the test. Say a loudmouth gossip person in everyone's business says, oh yeah, I'm really, introverted in my heart, and, deep down inside, I'm really not like that. And so they mark that wrong answer. obviously they're going to get a wrong result. Is that the fault of the system or is it the fault of the person? Okay. So the Big-5 still depends on accurate testing. And I think that can best be done in the company of someone who's known you for a long time. When you do it that way, there's rarely a chance you're going to get it wrong. You know, I would say if you let them test you, then they're subject to their own bias. If you do it by yourself, you might be subject to your own, but do it with one other person, preferably not your significant other, because they're going to have their own strong biases about you. But, you know, like a close friend, I would do that, or a sibling. Okay, so again, to wrap that part of the video up, the biggest difference between the Big-5 and the other typology systems is it's scientific, but what does that mean? It means that it measures your traits, not the motivations, feelings, thoughts, hopes, dreams, fears, the things behind those traits. And as a result, the data it gets is maybe a little bit more simple and less interesting, but it's more solid and more easily measured and more easily replicated. You know, I've noticed taking Big-5 tests, I always get the same thing all the way back from when I first started taking the test. And I think most people who have dabbled in testing would say the same. The Big-5 test is more consistent than the others from a self-testing perspective. Okay, so I have some research to back up what I've said, and if you're interested in seeing it, I can give you some reading materials from Scientific American, Psychology Journal, Psychology Today magazine, and strangely enough, the website everyone teases and jokes about that is trash. 16 Personalities has some good literature on this too. Okay, so I'm going to turn the video around on some notes that I made out of Wikipedia on the Big-5 and just draw your attention to a couple of things. Okay, so we have Big-5 personality traits right here. And here are the Big-5 things: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. Now remember, these are being measured as traits. So, for instance, extroversion and introversion, we're not talking about subject, object, IME nuances, things like of that nature. We're talking about sociability, assertiveness, and introversion. So we're talking about these as demonstrable traits, not philosophical or theoretical concepts. So we're sort of back to the common sense, everyday sense of the word of these. So openness to experience, this is intellectual curiosity and creative imagination. These most correlate with intuition and sensing. The intellectual curious is usually more likely to be intuitive, creative imagination the same. If you're just a X's and O's person, data person, you're more likely to be sensing. Conscientiousness, I know something about this one. I score off the charts on this proudly, maybe to a fault. OCD, autistic spectrum stuff, I think. Organization, productiveness, responsibility. This correlates with I and with J and P, not I. Now, again, in socionics, the J and P designation are more nuanced and fluid than this. The regular MBTI, J for organized, punctual, on time, P for spontaneous, easygoing, free-flowing. I think it correlates more to that. But again, so the conscientiousness is more about P and J. Okay? Now, these guys have different letters, and that is, I'll probably make this my cover sheet, even though it won't look pretty. It'll be easier to take a snapshot and replicate. Next, extroversion, social assertiveness, opposite introversion. For them, they make it S, social, extroverted, and R for reserved or introverted. And that correlates with those respective MBTI traits, respectively. Next, we have agreeableness, compassion, respectfulness, trust in others. For them, that is the letter A, agreeable and accommodating, and it correlates more with the feeling types. Whereas E, that's more egocentric, which is thinking. Now, it's got to be said here that this trait is not as correlatable or connectable as these others. Introversion, extroversion are pretty much, you can correlate those with MBTI. Conscientiousness, you pretty much can. Openness to experience, a little less so, like maybe a 7 out of 10, whereas these are like a 9 out of 10. And then agreeableness, this is more like a 6.5, 7-ish out of 10. That's probably the least one, because you can be a thinker and still be respectful and agreeable, but it still correlates with feeling and thinking. And then last but not least, neuroticism. This is anxiety, depression, uptightness. For them, they do L for limbic or anxiety. They're more anxious. And then C for calm. In 16 personalities, that little A or T, the A stands for calm and the T stands for L in their system. Okay? So there's a look at that. I'm going to hold it there for a second. If you're watching this and want to copy that, you could do so. Okay, so to wrap it up, the Big-5 is commonly known as the most scientific of the personality typology disciplines. Why? Because it is trait-based. It doesn't seek to understand the deeper inner you. It's just looking at what does this person do on a regular basis, and then it takes measurements on a spectrum comparing the individual to greater society, and from there we are going to take the extra step with the help of the website called similarminds.com. Take a look at that. We'll be looking at that next time. Similarminds.com, and we're going to start correlating these Big-5 traits of openness to experience, conscientiousness, agreeableness, and neuroticism to those MBI types that they most correlate with. Okay, that's it for now. Bye.